Salvete discipuli. In today's lesson, we will read together the story In Arena, in which the gladiatorial fights will begin, and as a bonus, we will continue studying the accusative plural. Okay, so before we start reading our new story, again, here are the accusative new plural forms that we've learned. Puellas is the accusative plural of first declension. When you have girls in the plural as an object, puellas. Servos is the accusative plural of a second declension. Now, matres is the accusative plural of a third declension, but we learned it is identical to the nominative plural, and that means when you have a sentence where there are two third declension nouns, one of them is the subject, one of them is the object, the subject comes first. Okay, let's read our new exciting story. I'm going to read the Latin, show you the English, and talk about the grammar a bit. Duo retiarii et duo murmilones arenam intraverunt. Two net fighters and two murmilons entered the arena. Okay, notice you have the long I, that's a nominative plural of second declension. You have the long es, that is a nominative plural of the third declension. And both are subjects of the perfect tense verb intraverunt. Postquam gladiatores spectatores salutaverunt, tuba sonuit. Okay? Take a moment with the vocabulary provided. Look at that, and again, even though you have attempted a translation, perhaps take a moment again and think, okay, I know salutaverunt. Who is the subject? Who is the object? These forms are identical, but remember, word order matters. The first one is your subject. So after the gladiators greeted the spectators, a trumpet sounded. Tum gladiatores pugnam commiserunt. Then the gladiators began the fight. Murmilones Pompeianos valde delectabant, quod saepe victores erant. Okay, so this verb delectat, which means to please, this is basically like the equivalent of Spanish gustar. Okay, so even though literally this is going to mean that the murmilons were pleasing the Pompeians, this is how in Latin you say that the Pompeians were liking the murmilons. Okay? So the Pompeians really were liking the murmilons because they were often the winners. Okay, so I guess the Pompeians like to root for a winner. I'm going to be honest with you people. I personally like to root for an underdog. And you know what? My underdogs that I root for, they don't even win much, but I still root for them. And when they do win, it's even all the more exciting. Pompeiani igitur murmilones incitabant. The Pompeians, therefore, were cheering for the murmilons. Sed retiarii, quod erant expediti, murmilones facile evitaverunt. But the net fighters, because they were lightly armed, easily avoided the murmilons. Okay, so we studied the different types of gladiators, and the murmilons, they've got some armor on them. Okay, so they can't move as fast as the net fighters who have very little armor on them. So basically, the net fighters can probably avoid the murmilons for as long as they need to. Retiarii non pugnant, retiarii sunt ignavi, clamaverunt Pompeiani. The net fighters don't fight. The net fighters are cowards, shouted the Pompeians. Clamaverunt, perfect tense, and so we translate it shouted. Nucerini tamen responderunt. Retiarii sunt calidi, retiarii murmilones decipiunt. Okay, so we learned in the previous lesson that the people of Nuceria, they don't have their own amphitheater. They are here. Regulus, who is the senator who's paying for all this stuff, okay, Regulus is basically allowing the Nucerians into the amphitheater because he's their neighbor. And remember, for every Nucerian in the amphitheater, there's a Pompeian who's outside and angry that they couldn't get in. So the translation: the Nucerians, however, responded. The net fighters are clever. The net fighters are tricking the Murmilons. We obviously get the word to deceive from Latin decipiunt. Murmilones retiarios frustra ad pugnam provocaverunt. The Murmilons in vain challenged the net fighters to a fight. Tum murmilo clamavit, unus murmilo facile duos retiarios superat. Then a Murmilon shouted. One Murmilon easily overpowers two net fighters. Okay, so if this is true, then that one Murmilon, I guess, can go attack the two net fighters and beat them quite easily. We never needed two Murmilons in the arena. Pompeiani plauserunt. The Pompeians applauded. Okay, so they're happy because so far this has just been like the Murmilons chasing the net fighters around the arena and nothing's happening. So now this one Murmilon who's breaking ranks with his friend and going to attack the net fighters alone, he's making the crowd happy. Tum murmilo retiarios statum petivit. Then the Murmilon immediately attacked the net fighters. And again, remember, the OS ending is the accusative plural of the second declension. This can only be an object form. Even if this word had been over here, people, this would still mean. Then the Murmilon immediately attacked the net fighters. Murmilo et retiarii ferociter pugnaverunt. The Murmilon and the net fighters fought fiercely. Retiarii tandem murmilonem graviter vulneraverunt. The net fighters finally seriously wounded the Murmilon. Okay, so remember, accusative singular ending, he's the object. Now, the adverb graviter, this means seriously, he's going to live, but he needs to not be killed anymore. So at the end of this fight, remember, the decision is going to be made about whether to spare him or kill him. He will live if he's spared, okay? He is seriously wounded. He's not able to keep fighting, but he will live if he gets medical attention. Tum retiarii alterum murmilonem petiverunt. Okay, so what's happened here, there used to be two Murmilons, and they were heavily armored enough that those two net fighters didn't dare go together to attack the two Murmilons. But when one Murmilon came and attacked, together they were probably one of them threw the net over him while the other stabbed him with the trident, whatever. So basically now we're back to the same situation. There's only one Murmilon still in the fight. So then the net fighters attacked the other Murmilon. Hic murmilo fortiter pugnavit, sed retiarii eum quoque superaverunt. This Myrmilon fought bravely, but the net fighters also overpowered him. So the same thing. I mean, if they can beat one Myrmilon, they can beat another Myrmilon if it really is two net fighters against one Myrmilon. Pompeiani quod irati erant, Murmilones vituperabant. The Pompeians, because they were angry, were cursing the Myrmilons. Vituperabant, imperfect tense verb, were cursing. So they're kind of only fans of the Myrmilons when the Myrmilons win. Now that the Myrmilons didn't win, they're cursing their own favored players. Missionem tamen postulabant, quod Murmilones fortes erant. Okay, so missionem is a noun that means release, meaning release from being killed. Okay, what's about to happen here, Regulus, who's paying for this whole thing, he gets to make the decision about whether or not the retiarii, the net fighters, get to finish the job or whether the Myrmilons get to survive. So the Pompeians are saying, you know what, they lost, we're cursing them a bit, but they were brave. I mean, what the guy did, saying one Myrmilon can easily overpower two net fighters, okay, it was at least brave. So the Pompeians are saying, please spare their lives. Nevertheless, they were asking for release because the Myrmilons were brave. Now, what is Regulus going to do? Nucerini mortem postulabant. The Nucerians were asking for death. Omnes spectatores tacebant, et Regulum intente spectabant. All the spectators were silent and were intently watching Regulus. Now, he's in a tough spot. Remember, he has a summer home in Nuceria. He has to keep his neighbors happy. And yet, there's all these Pompeians, and they're basically telling him to do one thing, let the Myrmilons live. The Nucerians are saying, kill them. What's he going to do? Regulus, quod Nucerini mortem postulabant, policem vertit. Regulus, because the Nucerians were asking for death, turned the thumb. Now, you've seen in movies probably they put the thumbs down, okay, and that means kill him, or thumbs up means let him live. We actually don't completely know what this idiom, policem vertit, turn the thumb, literally means. One theory is that if they stick the thumb out, what that symbolizes is the sword is out of its sheath. That means kill. And rather than stick the thumb downward, they would actually pull the thumb under their fingers, and that symbolizes putting the sword back in the sheath. That's basically the best running theory. Nevertheless, policem vertit means Regulus is saying death to the Myrmilons. Pompeiani erant irati et vehementer clamabant. The Pompeians were angry and were loudly shouting. Retiarii tamen, postquam Regulus signum dedit, Murmilones interfecerunt. The net fighters, however, after Regulus gave the signal, killed the Myrmilons. Okay, these are irregular perfect tense verbs, okay? Dedit and interfecerunt. They are perfect tense verbs. Gave and killed.